President Roosevelt did not introduce another New Deal, which was a set of government programs designed to help many Americans during the Great Depression. Although the New Deal made efforts to assist the economy, it did not fully resolve the Depression. Furthermore, the president opposed exceeding the government's financial means by spending additional funds, given that the federal government was already in a state of indebtedness. Congress recommended that President Roosevelt decrease the expenditure on New Deal programs, and he followed their advice. Regrettably, this resulted in a decline in industrial production and an increase in unemployment. Nevertheless, as the country readied itself for a possible conflict, the deficit once again increased as a result of heightened expenditures. Surprisingly, this expenditure contributed to the nation's recovery from the Depression. Although no additional New Deal programs were introduced after 1938, numerous existing programs persisted and continue to have a lasting influence in the present day. Certain programs were developed to oversee banking and finance. The Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, is responsible for supervising the stock market and ensuring that laws regarding stocks and bonds are followed. The FDIC, created under the Glass-Steagall Act, protects people's savings if a bank goes out of business. The New Deal also had a positive impact on workers' rights. The Wagner Act and the Fair Labor Standards Act established rules for pay and work hours, prohibited child labor, and granted workers the right to join unions and negotiate together. The National Labor Relations Board, NLRB, still helps resolve labor disputes today. The Social Security Act was a major achievement of the New Deal that had a lasting impact. This legislation created a system to offer financial aid to numerous Americans, including benefits for the elderly, unemployment support, and assistance for families with children and disabled individuals. The government, for the first time, assumed responsibility for the well-being of its citizens. The New Deal also had an impact on agriculture. The Second Agricultural Adjustment Act offered loans to farmers according to the parity value, which is a price aimed at stabilizing farmers' incomes. Moreover, initiatives that facilitated the provision of electricity to remote regions significantly benefited agricultural workers. The New Deal also focused on protecting the environment. The Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC, was involved in planting trees and building hiking trails. During the 1930s dust storms, the Soil Conservation Service educated farmers on effective soil management methods to prevent erosion. The purpose of the Taylor Grazing Act was to decrease overgrazing on public lands. Meanwhile, the Tennessee Valley Authority, TVA, constructed dams to prevent floods and generate electricity. Additionally, the New Deal played a role in the growth of the national park system and established protected areas for wildlife conservation. In general, the New Deal had a big impact on different parts of American society, economy, and environment, and some of those effects are still noticeable today. The New Deal still greatly affects American society and politics. The main impact of this is the increase in power of the federal government, especially when the president is in charge. The New Deal included putting a lot of money into the economy, making federal jobs, controlling supply and demand, and actively solving labor conflicts. This led to a greater impact by the federal government on the nation's economy. The New Deal changed the dynamic between the federal government and state governments. The federal government wanted states to be more involved in New Deal programs, so they provided more financial assistance to states. This enabled state governments to increase their spending and offer more services to their citizens. The New Deal, however, received criticism from various viewpoints. Conservative critics claimed that the federal and state governments had grown too big and powerful, which could potentially jeopardize the country's traditional character. They thought that too much government involvement was bad for free enterprise, and that the government shouldn't have such a big role in the economy. However, critics with liberal views believed that the New Deal did not sufficiently address economic inequalities. They thought President Roosevelt should have done more to decrease the wealth difference between the rich and the poor. However, proponents of the New Deal contend that it adopted a balanced approach, seeking to maintain capitalism while also enacting essential reforms. They hold the belief that the New Deal played a pivotal role in facilitating the country's recovery from economic difficulties. Moreover, the New Deal instilled optimism during challenging times. It created optimism and belief in the government's capacity to intervene effectively in times of crisis. The New Deal greatly influenced citizens' expectations of their government. Citizens started to anticipate the government's involvement in tackling economic difficulties and offering aid to those who require it. In addition, the New Deal initiated a prolonged discussion regarding the position and magnitude of the federal government in American society. It made people wonder how much the government should be involved in the economy, social welfare, and individual freedoms. Throughout the years, this ongoing debate has played a significant role in shaping political ideologies and impacting policy decisions. There are people who support the idea of a smaller government that doesn't interfere too much, and they focus on individuals taking responsibility for themselves and the principles of a free market. Some people believe in a bigger government that actively works to solve social and economic inequalities. They think it's important for the government to step in and make sure that everyone has fair opportunities. In summary, the New Deal had a long-lasting effect on American society and politics. The federal government's increase in power, efforts to boost the economy, and introduction of social programs have influenced the nation's growth. The legacy of the New Deal sparks ongoing debates about the appropriate role of government and its duty to support the well-being and success of its people.